In this video, we're going to describe the methods for extracting copper from low-grade ores, and there's two we're going to look at: bioleaching and phytomining. We're then going to explain the advantages and disadvantages of both of these methods. There is a high demand for copper. We use it in lots of different things, mainly in wiring. However, copper is a finite resource. There's a fixed amount of it on Earth, and once we've used it all up, once we've mined it all, there'll be none left. And this copper now needs to be extracted from low-grade ores. Remember, an ore is a rock with enough metal in it to make it profitable to extract that metal. But since we've used up all the high-grade ores, rocks with lots of copper in, we're only left with low-grade ores. So this makes extracting copper very expensive, because we've got to process a lot of rock for not very much copper. And this is why we need to look at alternative methods to extract it, rather than just mining it directly. Bioleaching uses bacteria to convert the copper in the ore into soluble copper compounds. So that means the bacteria will break down the copper compounds and allow us to then dissolve them in water. This is useful because if we can break the copper in the rock down into a soluble compound, we can then extract that copper either using electrolysis or by displacement with a more reactive metal. So it's quite an efficient way to extract the copper from the rock. And if we use the displacement method, we'll usually use scrap iron for this. This is more sustainable because we're reusing old iron which otherwise wouldn't have a use. So if you think back to our video on sustainability, this is a way which we can be more sustainable by reusing something. Phytomining involves growing plants in soil that contains copper. If you grow plants in soil which contains copper, the plants will take the copper up through their roots. However, the plants can't use the copper and they can't get rid of it. So the copper then builds up in their leaves. So their leaves end up having a lot of copper in them. So you can see here how we've quite easily extracted the copper from the soil, where it's not easy to get out, to concentrating it in the leaves of the plants. Once the plants have grown, we can then harvest them, dry them out and burn them. This will produce ash, which we can then dissolve in sulfuric acid. And once we've got our solution of sulfuric acid and copper, we can extract the copper using electrolysis or displacement, just like we described for bioleaching. We're now going to look at the advantages and disadvantages of using phytomining and bioleaching compared to traditional mining of copper. An advantage of these methods is that they're cheap. They use a lot less energy than normal mining. They also have a much smaller impact on the environment. We can mine the ores in ways which are much less damaging, since we can mine low-grade ores, and growing plants in soil and using bacteria on the ores aren't very damaging to the environment. The disadvantages of these processes is that they are very slow. You've either got to wait for the plants to grow in phytomining, or in bioleaching, it's still quite slow for the bacteria to break down the copper into the soluble compounds. So in the exam, you could be asked to evaluate these methods, where you'd have to weigh up the advantages and disadvantages and come to your own judgment about whether these methods are better than traditional mining.